It was just another Friday morning on Daylight Politics, the kind of broadcast that usually faded into the background for most viewers. The studio, based out of Des Moines, looked exactly as expected, clean, bright, and calm. The panels behind the speakers were neutral blues and grays, and the lighting was soft, but sharp enough to flatter. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. The kind of setting designed to make sure the real focus stayed on the conversation, or at least the appearance of one. The cameras were rolling. Shelley Barnard, the show's host, was steering the panel through another routine discussion, this time on farm subsidies and grain tariffs in the Midwest. She had done this 100 times. Across from her sat Seth Ridge, a conservative voice from Indiana, known for his strong takes but never too controversial. And just 2 seats over, Jasmine Crockett, the Democratic congresswoman from Texas, sat poised and ready, dressed sharp, sitting straight. Jasmine was the kind of guest producers loved, clear, focused, and always on time. They were halfway through a light debate about how agricultural policies might shift depending on the next election. The conversation was polite, predictable, even a little slow, but that was how these shows worked. The viewers tuning in didn't want surprises. They wanted structure, familiar arguments, measured tones, and for the first part of the show, that's exactly what they got. Then Jasmine's phone buzzed. It sat face down on the desk, barely noticeable, until it started to vibrate again. Once, twice, then steadily. In any other moment, she would have ignored it. Her phone wouldn't normally even be visible during a taping. But today, for some reason, she had placed it right in front of her. She glanced down at it quickly, still listening to Seth finish his sentence about corn exports. But something about the way her eyes locked onto the screen made the energy shift, and fast. She stopped mid-sentence. It wasn't a dramatic pause, not yet. Just a small break, but it grew. 5 seconds passed. Shelley noticed first, then the control room. Seth looked up, puzzled. Shelley leaned forward slightly, her mic still live. "Congresswoman," she said, gently. Jasmine didn't respond. 7 seconds now. She was still staring at the phone. Her shoulders had dropped a little. The tight, upright posture of a public figure started to soften. She didn't look panicked, but she didn't look present either. Her fingers hovered near the phone for a second, then pulled back. Her lips parted slightly, just enough to let out one word. Quiet. Not to the room, almost like she was speaking only to herself. "Ibrahim." The control room froze, and on camera, everything else just stopped. The phone was still buzzing when Jasmine finally picked it up. Live, on air. No one could believe it. The control room flinched. One of the producers swore under his breath. This wasn't how things were done. Not here. Not during a nationally syndicated broadcast. Not by someone like Jasmine Crockett. You don't take personal calls in front of millions of people. But she did. She said nothing to the host, nothing to the panel. She just put the phone to her ear and said, softly, "Hello." Silence. Shelley, the host, stared at her, waiting for her to explain, to react, to even look up. But Jasmine wasn't with them anymore. Her eyes dropped toward the desk. Her face had gone pale. The color drained out of her so fast it almost looked like a trick of the lighting. The voice on the other end came through the phone, just loud enough for the mics to pick it up faintly. "Jasmine," the voice said. It was male, low, steady, an accent, clear and weighted. You could hear the tiredness in every word. It was Ibrahim, the president of Burkina Faso. At first, no one in the room understood. A call from a foreign leader, mid-broadcast. But then she asked, barely above a whisper, "Are you safe?" Her fingers tightened around the phone, knuckles white. Her eyes blinked too fast, like she was trying to stop something from spilling out. "There's been a bombing," Ibrahim said. "At a school in Kaya." The next few words hit her like a slap. "Children, aid workers, dead." She stopped blinking. For a moment, she just sat there, listening, not speaking. Her chest rose slowly, and then stopped, like her body had forgotten how to breathe. Then one word escaped her lips, not shouted, not explained, just said, "Children." And that was the moment everything changed. The producers in the booth waved frantically. "Cut to commercial. Do something." But Shelley didn't move, and the camera stayed on Jasmine. She was no longer the sharp, polished woman from minutes ago. Her shoulders had dropped. Her eyes were glassy. One hand trembled slightly as she reached for the glass of water someone had quietly placed in front of her. She didn't drink. I'm sorry to call you like this, Ibrahim's voice said through the phone, but I didn't want you to hear it from anyone else. That line cracked something in her. She closed her eyes for a long second, then opened them and turned toward the camera. Not toward Shelley, not toward Seth, straight at the lens. And, for the first time all morning, she spoke not like a congresswoman, but like someone who had just been told the world broke in half and expected to keep talking anyway. This isn't policy, she said. This is real. Nobody spoke. Nobody dared. She didn't wait for a prompt. She didn't ask for permission. She just kept going, her voice uneven, trying to push the words out. I just got off the phone with the president of Burkina Faso. A school was bombed this morning in Kaya. Children are dead. Americans, too. Volunteers. People who were there to help. The control room gave one last warning to the floor. Cut her mic. Cut the feed. Shelley raised a hand on. Something was happening. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't part of the show, but it was the most honest moment they'd ever filmed. Jasmine kept talking. No notes. No talking points. I asked about this place last month. Kaya, I tried to get 5 minutes on this show to talk about what was happening. We didn't have time. Remember, we skipped it for a poll analysis. She looked back at the host, her expression almost blank now. They were just kids, 9, 10 years old. While we've been sitting here, arguing about grain tariffs going up 2%, they were sitting in a classroom, getting blown apart. She turned back to the camera. I don't care if this ruins my career. I don't care if they call me emotional or dramatic or whatever word they picked to make this easier to ignore. You need to know this happened today, this morning, and we're not going to talk about it because it didn't happen here. Her voice cracked on the word here. Still, she didn't stop. We always say never again. We say if only we'd known. Well, I knew. I knew something bad might happen. I read the reports. I met with people. And I still couldn't stop it. And then, for a few long seconds, she didn't say anything. The camera stayed on her face. She wasn't crying yet, but her mouth twitched and her jaw tensed. She looked down at the table, eyes on her phone again, which was still lit up, still buzzing in the background. The control room finally gave up. They stopped yelling into headsets. Nothing could stop this now. Online. It had already begun. Before the show even cut to break, clips of her sitting silently on camera were hitting Twitter. No one knew the full story yet, but the still image of her hand covering her mouth with a single tear, forming that image spread like fire. Some said she was faking. Others said it was the most human thing they'd ever seen a politician do. But she didn't know any of that yet. She just sat there, hands still gripping the edge of the desk, and said one last thing, barely loud enough to hear. Let them meme it. Let them laugh. At least I felt something. The night Jasmine first met Ibrahim wasn't planned. No press, no aides, just the two of them at a quiet cafe a few blocks from Capitol Hill. The kind of place open late, but never full. It was past midnight. Jasmine sat at a small table with cold coffee she hadn't touched. She wasn't there to relax. She was waiting. When Ibrahim walked in, he didn't have security or an entourage, just a worn coat and a thin leather folder tucked under his arm. He nodded once, quietly, and sat across from her. No speeches, no grand introduction. I almost didn't come, he said. Jasmine didn't flinch. I thought you wouldn't, but then you brought up Kaya in that subcommittee hearing. No one ever brings up Kaya. He opened the folder and laid it in front of her. Inside were printed photos, maps, reports, not polished, just paper, creased and real. Burned school walls, a list of names, handwritten, missing children, teachers gone, medical tents torched. Jasmine flipped through them slowly, her eyes locking on one pictura cracked chalkboard with words still faintly visible. Tomorrow we write poems. These aren't in the news, she said. No, he replied. There are no cameras in Kaya anymore. No reporters. No one left to care. I asked 3 other US officials for a meeting. You're the only one who called back. That sentence stayed with her. Even after he left, even after she went home and sat in the dark, that line kept echoing. You were the only one who responded. She made a promise that night. She would find a way to speak up, to make people look. She tried quietly at first mentions in speeches, soft nudges during interviews. She pitched a short segment on humanitarian blind spots to a network contact. They said, maybe after the election cycle. Another said, important, yes, but it's not trending. She waited, but something in her gut told her waiting was a mistake. Then came the call, when Ibrahim's name lit up her phone during the live show. Jasmine already knew it wasn't good. He didn't have to say it. She heard it in his silence before the words came. There's been a bombing at a school, Kaya, that night. In her hotel room, she finally watched the video. The one Ibrahim hadn't sent, but someone else had. A little shaky, raw, filmed on a teenager's phone. A barefoot man carried a little girl wrapped in a sheet. Her arm swung loosely, as if it no longer belonged to her. Her hair was braided. Jasmine didn't speak. She didn't cry right away either. She just stared. Then she hit play again, and again. Each time, her breathing got shorter. Finally, she called Ibrahim. "Tell me their names," she said. There was a long pause. "I only have 6 confirmed so far," he answered. "The girl in the video. Her name was Biba. She died before they reached the hospital." Jasmine leaned forward, hand covering her face. "I know this isn't your burden," he said, "but I thought if even one person in your country really saw it, maybe it would matter." "It does," she said, her voice breaking. "It matters." Later that night, she pulled out a notepad and started writing. Not for a press release, not for TV, just her thoughts. She turned them into a short post, the kind people scroll past without thinking. But this one hit different. She posted it without filters, without edits. "I didn't plan to cry on national television. I didn't plan to answer a call during a broadcast. But when you hear that a school was bombed and children are dead, something inside you breaks. Or at least, it should. If it didn't, I worry for your humanity. Burkina Faso may feel far away, but grief doesn't need a passport. I won't apologize for caring. I just wish I had done more." It spread fast. Comments, reposts, screenshots. But Jasmine didn't read them. She wasn't looking for approval. She got to work. She texted Priya, her chief of staff. "We're starting a fund, quietly. No press. Trust me." In the next 2 days, she made calls. Former classmates, friends in non-profits, a State Department contact who owed her a favor. She found a lawyer who could set up the legal side, and someone with web skills who built a site overnight. She didn't want a fancy campaign, just a working link, real transparency, and a way for money to go where it was needed. By Sunday night, they had enough pledged to rebuild 1 school and send medical supplies to 2 clinics. Then she called the producers of Daylight Politics. "I'm not here to do a segment," she said. "I just need 1 minute. Personal time. I'll pay for it." They didn't know what to say, but they didn't say no. On Monday morning, Jasmine walked back into the studio. Same panel, same lights, same chair. But she wasn't there to debate policy. At the end of the show, the cameras turned to her. Alone, no music, no graphics. She held up a printed photo. Biba's photo. "This is Biba," she said. "She was 9. She was in class when the bomb hit. She didn't make it to recess. You didn't see that part on TV. You only saw me cry. I cried because I couldn't stop it. But I'm done crying." She placed the photo down. "We've launched a relief fund. It's not political. It's not fancy. It's real. It goes directly to those affected, and I'm asking you not as a politician, but as a person. If you care, show it." She held up a page with the website. Then the screen faded to black. No applause. Within 10 minutes, the site crashed. Too many people, too many donations, too many hearts that had been waiting for something real to feel again. Something big was happening. Within just a few days, the fund Jasmine had launched from a plain desk in a TV studio had already passed $600,000. The site, thrown together with borrowed time and borrowed hands, had become a destination for something more than money. People wanted to help, really help. A retired teacher from Utah sent books. A church group in Cincinnati offered medical kits. Teenagers on TikTok stitched her speech and told their followers, "Don't ignore this." And quietly, without fuss, something rare happened. People learned how to say Kaya out loud, and they meant it. But Jasmine didn't celebrate. She didn't post selfies or do press tours. She stayed behind the scenes, making sure the money moved fast, straight to where it was needed. New chalkboards, clean mattresses, burn kits, a rebuilt roof. She didn't ask for attention. She just wanted the work to speak. Still, people wanted to hear her. So, she showed up not at big rallies, but in smaller rooms where people still came with open hands and folded notes. One of those rooms was a community rec center in Iowa, where about 80 chairs were set up between a mural and a vending machine. No stage lights, no news cameras, just Jasmine, a cheap mic, and a crowd that looked tired but curious. They weren't American kids, she said, standing in front of the group, but they were still kids. No one moved. She looked around slowly, holding their eyes. We keep being told our compassion has borders, that we should care more about kids in our zip code than kids in a country we can't find on a map. But I don't think love works like that. I think if something hurts, it should matter. No matter where someone clapped, then someone else. She let the noise fade. I'm not asking you to change the world, she said. I'm asking you to feel it. Not everyone agreed. The backlash kept crawling out from under headlines and comment sections. Pundits called it emotional politics. One columnist accused her of rebranding with tragedy. Another claimed she was using grief for clicks. Jasmine didn't answer. Not once. She didn't repost. She didn't fight back. She just kept doing the work. Then came the library in Ohio. Small town. A simple event. No stage, just a mic on a plastic stand and folding chairs filled with students. Nurses, veterans, single mums, a bus driver who came after his shift. Jasmine stood in front of them with one note card she never looked at. I've asked myself a lot these past few weeks. She said, was it okay to break down on live TV? Should I have held it in? Been stronger? She paused. Her hands rested gently on the podium. But I don't think I broke. I think I broke open. And from that, something started. Not noise, not headlines, but help. She stepped away from the mic and walked closer to the edge of the crowd. What if grief isn't weakness? She asked. What if it's the beginning of action? The room was still. A few people looked down. Some just blinked slowly, as if trying to absorb something heavier than they expected. After the event, she stayed to speak to every person who wanted to shake her hand or ask a question. No rushing, no handlers pulling her away. She answered each one like it mattered. Near the end, a boy who looked about 9 walked up to her, quiet and nervous. He handed her a folded sheet of notebook paper. She opened it. In blue crayon, it said, "I'm glad you answered the phone." Jasmine knelt to his level, smiled, and said, soft and clear, "Me too." Then she stood, stepped outside into the Ohio air, and walked toward her car. No cameras followed, no lights waited. But across the ocean, in Kaya, another classroom was being rebuilt, and Biba, the girl who never made it to recess, wasn't forgotten. If this story moved you even a little, don't scroll past. Let it matter.